The plan was simple enough. Ride a jet ski down the Niagara River, fly off the end of the falls, deploy a parachute, and land safely. On October 1st, 1995, Robert Overcracker planned to do just that, and used the notoriety of the stunt to raise awareness for homelessness. But tragically, things would not go as planned. Overcracker was a California resident and had been planning this stunt for over 7 years, pretty much ever since he graduated from stunt school. But as he entered the river near the Canadian Niagara power plant, something went wrong, and as he approached the falls, what was described as a rocket-propelled parachute failed to launch, resulting in Overcracker going off the falls, falling a height officials say is the equivalent of hitting cement. Not only was this photo captured, however, but a video of the stunt was also captured, showing off Overcracker's ride up to the falls and the leap off the jet ski before he disappears into the mist. Overcracker would become the 15th person at the time to intentionally go over the falls. Still, it is estimated that nearly 25% of daredevil attempts at the falls end in tragedy. Despite the fact he was wearing a life preserver, the fall and the force of the 1 million gallons of water that go over the falls every second was just too much, and Overcracker would be found dead at the bottom of the falls. It would also seem that the stunt was not done with the permission of the officials who overlooked the falls, meaning the 2,000 or 3,000 people visiting the falls at the time who may have seen Overcracker's fatal fall had no idea it was going on. Overcracker, who did not have any children but was married, was only 39 at the time. Officials use his story as a cautious tale for any daredevils who want to try anything similar. Nicholas Mavoli was an American diver known for performing free dives, meaning he would sometimes dive hundreds of feet down into the water in a single breath, without any equipment like oxygen tanks. Despite the fact Mavoli would dive competitively and held multiple titles and records, he would actually work as a prop technician on shows like Gossip Girl and Chappelle's Show for a living, in addition to pursuing a career in acting. However, tragedy would strike on November 17, 2013, when Mavoli competed in the Vertical Blue, an annual freediving competition held in the Bahamas. Mavoli would attempt to dive to a depth of around 236 feet, or 72 meters, in a single breath. But after reaching roughly 223 feet, he would start to turn back. Interestingly enough, however, he would seem to change his mind and begin descending further. He would return back to the surface after being underwater for 3 minutes and 38 seconds, and someone would capture this photo. Immediately, we can tell something isn't quite right, as Mavoli clearly has a look of distress on his face, a drastic difference to the upbeat and happy demeanor he showed earlier in the competition. This unfortunately would be a foreboding expression, as he would fall back into the water and lose consciousness. Despite trying to resuscitate Mavoli for over 90 minutes and transporting him to a nearby hospital, he would ultimately die as the result of suffering a pulmonary edema. I'm not a doctor, but according to Wikipedia, that means that there was an excess amount of liquid building up in the tissue of his lungs, but not as the result of inhaling water like someone who's drowning, but through things like blood leaks, as the result of the strain that is put on the body due to the underwater conditions Mavoli was subjecting himself to. Mavoli was the first athlete to have died in an international freediving competition, and the photo taken only moments before he would lose consciousness would make it all the way to the New York Times. Mavoli was only 32 years old. On August 14, 2011, a couple from Ontario visited Niagara Falls and even took this photo to commemorate the trip. However, what was a happy moment for a young couple would soon be one of tragedy. But not for the couple. Instead, the young Japanese woman spotted in red in the background. Later identified as Ano Tokomasu, the young woman would climb the railing and sit on a pillar as she watched the falls. However, around 8:30 that evening, Tokomasu would fall into the water, only about 66 feet away from the edge of the falls. Even an Olympic swimmer would be no match for the currents that close to the edge of the falls, and as a result, she was thrown off to her death. Her body would ultimately be recovered on the 18th. It is reported that on average around 30 people die going over the falls every year, with the majority doing it on purpose to end their own lives. However, based on security footage, it is actually believed that Tokomasu fell into the river unintentionally after losing her footing while trying to stand up on the pillar, which makes the tragic end for this 20-year-old foreign exchange student from Japan all that more tragic. This also makes the original image far more disturbing to look at, knowing the fate of Tokumasu as she stands on the railing in the background, looking at the falls. On August 31st, 1997, Princess Diana, otherwise known as the Princess of Wales, was killed as the result of a motor vehicle accident in France, along with her partner and their driver. Her bodyguard was also in the vehicle during the crash, but survived, although he too sustained serious injuries. Diana, born Diana Spencer, was an international icon known for being a member of the royal family after she married Charles III in 1981, whom she would later divorce in 1996. However, thanks to her charity work and acceptance of AIDS patients, Diana was loved by many, the end result being paparazzi following her every move after the news of her separation with, at the time, Prince Charles became public, which may have ultimately led to her demise, as the driver of the black Mercedes-Benz, identified as Henry Paul, would lose control of the vehicle as they entered a tunnel, traveling at a speed of about twice as fast as the posted speed limit, in an attempt to evade the following paparazzi. The end result would be Paul and Diana's partner both being killed on site, and Diana being rushed to the hospital. Despite the fact she was conscious at the time the first few individuals began helping the occupants of the vehicle, she would die at 3 a.m. that morning. Although her face cannot be seen in the photo, this is one of the last known photos of Princess Diana still alive. It is reported that while some paparazzi attempted to help when arriving at the scene, some did begin taking photos, most of which were confiscated by the police. Some photos of the wreckage exist online, but none that include images of the victims. It would ultimately be determined by investigators that Paul was intoxicated at the time of the crash, and also had traces of antidepressants in his system, which may have reacted negatively with the alcohol. The entire world would mourn the passing of Diana, with her funeral being viewed by a reported 2.5 billion people. However, the royal family would be criticized for their handling of the situation, which would ultimately result in rumors that Princess Diana's death was not an accident, but an assassination. However, this would never be proven, and the royal family stated that they only desired to protect Diana's two sons, William and Harry, in their time of grieving. Diana was 36 at the time. Paul Walker was an American actor most well known for being one of the leads in the Fast and Furious franchise, frequently starring opposite Vin Diesel. While in the middle of filming Furious 7, the 7th installment in the Fast and Furious franchise, Walker would attend a charity event near Santa Clarita in California. Ultimately, however, it would end in tragedy. Upon leaving the event around 3:30 p.m. on November 30th, 2013, Paul would be seen getting into a red 2005 Porsche GT with Roger Rodas. This photo taken as Walker began entering the vehicle is one of the last known photos of him alive. With Rodas behind the wheel, the two would find themselves traveling as fast as an estimated 93 miles per hour, despite the fact the speed limit was 45, and the car would eventually collide with a concrete lamppost before bursting into flames. Rodas was killed instantly in the crash, but Walker is believed to have died from a mixture of trauma and burns. It was ultimately determined that neither of the two men had any alcohol or drugs in their system. The vehicle is also believed to have not had any mechanical error. Despite this, Walker's daughter would sue Porsche and settle out of court, while the courts would rule in favor of Porsche in a similar suit by Rodas's widow. It seems unlikely that the vehicle had some kind of mechanical defect, and it is likely that the crash was caused by the vehicle simply going too fast, resulting in the driver losing control. As a result of Walker's untimely passing, Walker's brother acted as a stand-in to finish Furious 7, with CGI used to replicate Paul's face. Several other movies have also been released since his passing, including 2013's Hours and 2014's Brick Mansion. It is also alleged that Walker had turned down the role of Superman in 2006's Superman Return, out of fear of the Superman curse, an urban legend claiming those involved in the project often suffer misfortune. At the time of the crash, Paul Walker was 40 years old. Well, that's it for now. Be sure to like the video to help the algorithm, and subscribe to see more content like it. If you enjoyed this video, why not check out this one, where I talk about 5 photos taken moments before tragedy. I'll see you next time.